Hello, I'm Jeff Faulkner, and I want to make the usual disclaimer. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes no official position on the geography of the Book of Mormon, but I want to point out something interesting about the Book of Mormon. If you take the book itself, the entire book, if you take it as an allegory that's relevant to our day, today, that's written in ancient times, but if it's relevant to our day and it's an allegory, I want to point out an interesting fact about the Book of Mormon, which I think is factual. It happened here in Mesoamerica. All of the events of the Book of Mormon took place here, except, of course, the journeyings across Arabia and then Moroni's travels to deposit the abridgment up in the western New York. But I think an important point to keep in mind, if you look at the Book of Mormon as an allegory, is that the sweep of the Nephite saga, the trend is northward from where Lehi landed in coastal Guatemala. The Nephites went up to the Valley of Guatemala. They migrated down across the narrow strip of wilderness into the Sidon River Valley, the Grijalva River Valley. They had a series of righteous kings that gave them a superior form of government. Mosiah II put them under the reign of the judges. They were always threatened from the Lamanite enemies to the south. And over time, the Lamanites finally began to infiltrate in. The Nephites had among them dissenters called kingmen. The main group was called kingmen. And they invited the Lamanites to come up because they wanted to overthrow this superior form of government that the Nephites were under. The kingmen wanted to rule and reign themselves. They were of noble birth. So the trend was down in this direction, northward, from Guatemala into Chiapas, Mexico. And they multiplied and filled the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, on the Bountiful side, which was the east side, and they used Bountiful as a barrier to keep the Lamanites to the south. The first barrier, of course, was the narrow strip of wilderness, but the secondary barrier to him and the Lamanites was the land Bountiful on the isthmus. But eventually, as the Nephites became more and more wicked, and as there was more disrespect shown for their leadership, and their chief judges and governors were murdered, the Lamanites began to infiltrate more and more until the Lamanites outnumbered the Nephites in their own land, the land of the Nephites, the land of Zarahemla, pushed them up toward the isthmus more and more. Then there was 200 years called the Golden Age by some, after Christ appeared, where this whole process was interrupted for 200 years. But then it began again, and the Nephites, which were the white people at that time, were pushed across the isthmus. The Lamanites broke through the land Bountiful over to the south and drove the Nephites up across the isthmus in the land Desolation, which is on the west side of the isthmus, and exterminated them. But you see this sweep of the Nephite saga was in this direction. And all throughout all this time, throughout all these periods, people were migrating northward. Northward, northward, northward. That was the trend, was migrating northward. Now, if we use the Book of Mormon as an allegory for our times, and this is the Book of Mormon region, we see the same process going on today. Only now, these people that are migrating from Central America up through Mexico, these are called in the Book of Mormon the remnant of Jacob. And the Gentiles in the United States are typified by the Nephites of the Book of Mormon. The Gentiles are becoming wicked, disrespecting their leaders, disrespecting their judges and their laws, and they're better form of government that was bequeathed to them by God through the founding fathers. Gentiles becoming more and more wicked daily, and the remnant of Jacob coming up. The trend is still continuing northward. Now, in the book of Helaman, we see that the Lamanites, when they began to outnumber the Nephites in the land of Zarahemla, the Lamanites became more righteous than the Nephites, pushing them farther and farther north. Now, as these people come up into the United States, they will eventually replace the Gentiles, which is basically the white ruling elite in the United States. These people, the remnant of Jacob, who are Israelites because they're descended from Nephi, they will replace the wicked Gentiles in the land northward. Everything north of the isthmus is the land northward, or by synecdoche, it's the land desolation, and it will be left desolate when we're fully ripened in iniquity. And these people, the remnant of Jacob, of the house of Israel, will come and help to build the New Jerusalem. Now, this is a taboo subject, so don't go telling anybody about it.